as it's happening right now.
February 9th, and I hereby declare the vote open, and happy 100th anniversary to New Hampshire primary.
America.
Hold on, let's continue to listen.
Supervisor board renovations here at the house.
All right, you can see how quickly that goes up.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the ballot box, the balloting be
Recording
closed.
midnight vote. This has been going on since
It's
1960.
been
What's going to
moved and
happen now
seconded.
is they're going to take the boxes, they're going to go count the votes.
Everybody's been checked off and accounted.
In a few minutes, as you can hear, everything has been checked off.
Moved and
Let's
seconded,
listen
we're
one
allowed
more
to
time.
second. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, polls are closed.
So there you have it. The
All right,
voting
so
is
now we're
concluded
waiting
here
for
at
a few minutes.
Dixville
It's not
Notch.
gonna take long to
Took less than
So there you go,
Mark,
Don.
took
They have
what,
just
all
closed
of-
the polls here.
Like 30 seconds to a minute?
They've just. Right, so we're looking right now, Don. They've just closed the polls. They're going back to count them. We expect them out. I mean, there's only 9 votes, Don, so it can't take that long. We certainly hope it won't take that long. They'll be right back out. And as we said earlier, on this whiteboard behind me, they will record the results. Now, granted, this is very symbolic in many ways, but it is a part of this political lore that we have here in the United States. Again, dates back to 1960 when Tom Tillison's father started the tradition. They not only do it in the primary, they also do it in the general election. Again, not only happening here, but in 2 other towns, Millsfield, as well as Hart's location here in New Hampshire. Now, Don, of course, the polls really open tomorrow morning in the more populous areas down in the southern part of the state as we wait to see who is going to come out of New Hampshire victorious on the Republican side as well as the Democratic side. So let's just wait a few moments and they will come back here, Don.
Okay, Mark, don't go anywhere. We're going to continue on here, and then we'll add you into the conversation. But I want to bring Ryan in. If you hear something, feel free to jump in. But Ryan, they've had a pretty good record here in Dixville Notch over the past couple of election cycles.
Yeah, well, my understanding is since 1968, they've not necessarily predicted the Republican who's going to win the Republican primary in New Hampshire, but Dixville Notch has predicted who the ultimate nominee is.
Right.
Yeah, that's not bad since 1968. Getting those, I think there was a tie in 1980 between Reagan and Bush, and of course Reagan went on to win the nomination.
So
but it's more of a celebration of New Hampshire and New Hampshire being first in the nation and taking voting so serious.
All right, let's put their primary predictions up on the screen. GOP 2012 results: Mitt Romney 2, Huntsman 2. So that was virtual.
That was another tie.
Yeah. Newt Gingrich 1, Ron Paul 1. This was 2008. The results for that: John McCain 4, Mitt Romney 2, Rudy Giuliani 1, and then the Democrats.
So they got
2008.
They got McCain.
Yeah, they got McCain. The Democrats in 2008 was Barack Obama 7, John Edwards 2, Bill Richardson 1. They got that right. So you wonder.
No, not a Hillary vote in 2000. Interesting. She won. She won New Hampshire, but Obama won the nomination.
If it was all like this, we wouldn't have hanging chads or whatever. It's just
It'd be nice
9
and
people
easy.
got to decide. Mark, what do you?
Here we go,
hear?
Don. Well, here we go. We're going to see the results, Don. Let me just step down here so we can get them for you.
All right. We have the results. On the Republican side, we have for Donald J. Trump, 2. For John R. Kasich, we have 3.
3 Kasich.
All right, so if you can hear that,
And
that's
that was
2
all
for
the
Trump,
Republican
and 3
votes.
for Kasich.
On the
Only
Democratic side,
Republican votes, not the
We
Democratic
have
side.
4 votes cast for Bernie Sanders,
4 votes cast for Bernie Sanders
none for Hillary.
and none for Hillary.
Okay,
That's it.
so there you have it.
And there you have it. Let's take another look again at the
So there you go, Don. As you can see on the whiteboard behind me, only 3 candidates getting the votes. John Kasich, who came up here to Dixville Notch, who held a town meeting. About 60 people showed up from the surrounding communities, gets 3 votes. We know that he's been campaigning hard, and there's been a lot of talk over the past weekend that he has been surging throughout the state, and we'll see where John Kasich ends at the end of tomorrow night when we see all the votes across the state counted. Now, interestingly enough, Bernie Sanders, when we were driving up here, we saw a lot of Bernie Sanders signs along the road. Did not see any Hillary Clinton signs, and of course, she got no votes. Don, back to you.
All right, Mark Preston, thank you. What do you make of this, Ryan Lizza? Trump 2, Kasich 3, Sanders 4, Hillary Clinton 0.
So one thing is Kasich actually reached out and asked for the vote, so that always helps. And then Sanders is he's from Vermont. The media markets up there probably cover Sanders as a senator, right? So so he's well known in northern New Hampshire as he is in the rest of the state. So not a huge surprise there. And the outsiders did well, right?
Yeah.
Four votes, 4 and 2 for the two outsiders versus only 3 for Kasich.
So if you look at this, so some people would say, how much stock should we be putting in this little town?
Not
It's
that
very
much.
charming. It's a charming tradition, and they've got a pretty good record, but not that much stock. Do you think that the Clinton people are going, oh my gosh, we're in trouble?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's got a decent. It's predicted the nominee a decent number of times since '68 on the Republican side. But look, you could flip a coin, 10 times and get heads 10 times in a row. It doesn't mean a whole lot. I think it's more of a celebration of democracy in New Hampshire. It shows that people in New Hampshire take this very seriously. They put on an event like this.
All right. We should tell everyone the first votes are in Dixville, Notch, and they're happening in several of other towns, Marksville and Hartsville and Harts location as well. Small, quaint towns in New Hampshire. The bulk of the voting in the southern towns and cities start tomorrow. Mark Preston joins us now from Dixville, Notch, where the votes have been cast. Trump got 2, Kasich got 3, Sanders 4, Hillary Clinton 0. Mr. Preston.
Well, Don, what's interesting is that not only did John Kasich come up here and hold a town meeting, he has been on the phone with the voters up here trying to get their support. And our own Ashley Kelo, who is traveling with Jeb Bush, reported tonight that Jeb Bush, during one of his rallies, says that he'd been to every nook and cranny of the state except Dixville Notch, but yet he'd made a few telephone calls up here. Clearly, those telephone calls didn't work. But to Ryan's point, this is a celebration of politics, not only in New Hampshire, but quite frankly, across the country. This is really a page out of the Norman Rockwell book. It's amazing up here how engaged people are, what they know about policy, and what they want to hear from the candidates. So, Don, again, first votes cast here, 2 other towns as well. We'll have those results later, but really this is very interesting. Heading into tomorrow morning, or I guess in just a few hours, we are in the morning, it's going to be an interesting race to the finish here in New Hampshire.
Do the voters there talk, the 9 people, do they talk to the media? Do they usually tell you why they voted the way they did?
They love talking to the media. There's no doubt about that. In fact, one of the gentlemen who voted for John Kasich told me why he voted for Kasich. He told me the story that he went up to John Kasich and told the Ohio governor, listen, I'm interested in you, but I think you need to attack Hillary Clinton. And John Kasich at the time said, I'm not going to do that. That is not my style. That's not what I'm going to do. And the gentleman wrote him off at that time. However, the more and more he saw the infighting on the Republican side and the attacks by Trump on Hillary Clinton, he started to come over to the John Kasich side. And John Kasich has been making a big deal about the kind of compassionate conservatism that he is delivering. In fact, during the debate on Saturday night, he talked about not leaving anybody behind, but using smart conservative solutions. So smart conservative solutions sounds a lot like the John McCain's campaigns when he ran back here in 2000 and 2008. John Kasich seems to be running the same playbook, and in fact, one of his top strategists was a former McCain strategist, Don.
Mark Preston, do the folks there in Dixville, Notch, and the other 2 towns, do they know that people are going to be, Ryan, I should say, pardon me, do they know that people are going to be paying so much attention to them at 12:01 on, primary morning?
You can tell that they're pretty media savvy, right? They've turned this into a celebration of the town.
So they study the policy and they study these candidates, but that's part of the reason that they're so engaged.
Absolutely. I mean, look, as cynical as you can get about politics, one of the things I love about covering Iowa and New Hampshire is something like this, right? These states, Iowa and New Hampshire, the voters really do take things seriously. We had a voter on here tonight who is still struggling over whether to vote for Sanders or Hillary Clinton. These folks in Dixville Notch, they put on a whole show to celebrate democracy, and this is sort of the epitome of what people really love about New Hampshire. That shows how seriously they take this.
I found your question fascinating. I was going to ask her if you did, and why aren't you decided by now? You've had so much information. People are knocking on your doors. They're bursting through your television. They're on the radio. I mean,
and maybe that makes it hard.
Maybe makes
because
it harder,
you're overwhelmed with the information. And in later states, you don't get that privilege, right?
Right.
In later states, when there are 10 states voting, you don't have the candidates meeting you one-on-one. The famous thing in New Hampshire is you ask a voter, who are you going to vote for? And they say, well, I don't know. I've only met Hillary twice and Bernie 3 times. times.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't happen later on.
If you're just tuning in, just about 9 minutes ago, the first votes were cast in the New Hampshire primary up in a place called Dixville Notch and 2 other towns. But we were live at Dixville Notch. There were 9 voters in Dixville Notch. We have to tell you the results. Here are the results on the Republican side. On the Republican side, Donald Trump, 2 votes. Look at that. First in the nation, 2016. They're celebrating. They're going to cut into the cake there in Dixville Notch. Donald Trump, 2 votes on the Republican side. John Kasich, 3 votes. So John Kasich is a winner there.
Big winner there.
On the Democratic side, the winner is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, 4 votes. Hillary Clinton, 0 votes. And they are celebrating up in Dixville Notch, first in the nation, to vote in a primary for who is going to be president, come November.
And I think there's a little bit of
2016.
there's a little bit of a PR thing going on here, right? People are constantly saying, "Well, why does New Hampshire go first?" And this state likes to promote these kind of things to make people aware that they take this seriously.
Okay.
And that
Does Mark, do you have
their
results
place.
from the other one of the other towns? What do you have?
We do, Don. Now we have results in from Millsfield right now that have just come in. Ted Cruz received 9 votes. Donald Trump received 3 votes. A number of the other Republican candidates only received 1 vote. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton received 2. Bernie Sanders received 1. In total, 21 votes. So, Don, if you can imagine this, we're talking about 2 locations where a total of 30 votes have been counted. And to tell you here, there must be 30 reporters in this room right now, a very small room, who are recording all of these results.
More reporters than people, right? Okay, so Millsfield, you said Clinton got 2 votes, Sanders got 1 vote, right? And then Cruz 9, Trump 3. Correct, Mr. Preston?
That is correct.
That is correct. And so more
In all,
reporters
21
there.
votes.
In all 21 votes. So
There are more
I'll ask you the
reporters
same
here than
question
there
I
are
asked
voters,
Ryan
that's
Lizard.
for sure.
So they're very aware of what's happening at 12:01, come primary day in those locations, and that's, not the entire reason, but part of the reason that they may be so engaged is because they know the eyes of the country are on them.
Right, no doubt. I mean, listen, we just came out of Iowa, which is another state that's very civic, minded. A lot of criticism that Iowa and New Hampshire are 2 states that have been so influential in the process, and they would like to break it up, and they'd like to see some of these bigger states such as California or Florida or Michigan have more of a role. And this happens every 4 years where there seems to be a struggle and a fight over that. But what makes it really interesting, in some ways essential for candidates for the smaller states, is that you can go into an Iowa or a New Hampshire and you can campaign and you can meet the voters one-on-one. And quite frankly, you can buy television ads in these states because they're not as expensive, which allows the likes of Rick Santorum, if you remember back in 2012, who won the Iowa caucus. If you look at John Kasich, who doesn't have a whole lot of money, he's up against the Trump machine, he's up against the tens of millions of dollars that Jeb Bush has, but yet he seems to be doing pretty well. So that's what makes these states very unique. And I have to tell you, these folks here, they know what they're talking about. They know policy, they know their politics, and quite frankly, they want to know their candidates. They don't want to meet them once, Don. They want to meet them twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times is when they make a decision.
Okay, I understand that John Kasich is already tweeting about his victory in Dixville Notch. Let's put it up on the screen. I'll give it to Ryan and to Mark, whoever wants to respond to it. It says, early momentum as John Kasich wins GOP vote in Dixville Notch. Let's keep it going, New Hampshire. What do you say? What do you make of that, Ryan?
Well, his main strategist, John Weaver, he knows a thing or two about New Hampshire. He's worked for John McCain, who, of course, won New Hampshire against George W. Bush in 2000. So they know how to play the game. They know how important Dixville Notch can be in getting a little media attention and getting things rolling. And, I think that this is a fun thing, right? This is not predictive. None of the other candidates right now are losing sleep or waking up or their aides saying, oh, my God, we lost Dixville Notch.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say because you're not running. John Kasich is like, this is a harbinger. This is what's going to a prediction for what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan Lizza. Hey, thank you, Mark Preston, up there in Dixville Notch, where there are more media people than actual voters. Great reporting, Mark. Be safe. I'll see you back here in Manchester soon.